welcome back to another episode of Dine By Me. I'm Travis T-Cat Utley. Today is July 4th, and my church is doing a 4th of July event, where one of the events is a barbecue cook-off. So I thought this morning I would just walk through the process of how I make my pulled pork for this competition, and then kind of show you all the ins and outs of what I do. And hopefully by the time it's over with, we've won a nice little prize. We've done this the last 3 years. I've won 2 of them. So last year I came in second, so I have to step it up a little bit this year. So first things first, we're going to get gloved up because we don't get messy. And then we're going to get this but actually, what I've elected to get this year is a shoulder, and it's a full shoulder, so it's the butt and the ham shoulder. So we got to do a little trimming on it first thing. We'll get this out of the package. So with a full shoulder, you got a fat cap, but on that fat cap you've got some skin. We're gonna have to get that skin off there. Now, you could cook all that and make like cracklings or whatever you want to call them, but we're just going to throw that away. I left a little bit on up here because this shake's hard. We're not going to use any of that anyway. It's hard to get the skin off of it. So here on the fat cap side, we're going to make some scores in it, in the fat. This will allow all the rub that we're about to put on to get down in between those layers. Add flavor. So everything we do today will be to add flavor to this piece of meat as it cooks. The only step I'm going to do that doesn't add flavor, that you're going to be like, oh, I don't know about that, is we're going to slather this in yellow mustard. Now when this cooks, you won't be able to taste any of this on here, but what it's for is to help the seasoning we're going to add here. So we just wipe this whole thing down with this mustard. Now you see why I'm wearing these gloves. All right. I'll give me a new fresh set here. So a couple things that I'm going to do here is I made an injection out of Meat Church's hog injection. It's basically just I boiled some water and added a cup of that. It's about a third of a cup of water and then a cup of the injection there. We're going to inject this butt here with some of that. Probably should have done that before I put the mustard on it, but it ain't gonna hurt. All right, so I've got my pit boss injector ready to go. I've got the hog injection from Meat Church I made up yesterday. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna stab this thing and we're gonna inject it a little bit. You'll see it plump up as we do this. Make sure we get in there pretty deep. This is a big piece of meat, but so we'll make sure we get a bunch of injection in there. Once we've injected it, with all that flavor, that's going to help keep it moist throughout the cook because it's going to take all day to cook this, probably around 10 hours. We're going to put some seasoning on it. So I'm going with the Gospel. This is probably my favorite seasoning. It's also from Meat Church. You'll see I use a lot of Meat Church stuff. But the thing I like best about this is it creates a real red color. Like they call it the best color in barbecue because as it cooks, it turns everything real nice, shiny red color. It's very pretty. So we want to make sure we get this real good coat. You can't mess this up. This is a real forgiving piece of meat, and because it is so big, you want to make sure you get a lot on there. Now that mustard that we put on there is going to help hold that on there. Okay. All right. So a lot of people could just leave this right here, be done with it. And as far as seasoning goes, but I like to go a little extra step. So I'm gonna roll this back over. What I like to do is I like to go with this 50-50 coarse ground salt and pepper over top of this. Is more of a brisket style. This is what I would use on my brisket as well. But because it is so coarse and it's got a lot of salt in it, a lot of pepper, when the smoke goes over this piece of meat, because it's so coarse, it will grab the edges of that seasoning and kind of give it more smoke flavor on the crust. Also, this coarse salt and pepper is great about creating a good crust. So you don't have to go too crazy on this. You just want a good cover. I said this is kind of more of a brisket style. So we want to have a good flavor in every single bite, you know. Okay. So now that we got the seasoning done, what we're gonna do is we're gonna let that sit here for about 15 to 20 minutes, and we'll come back as that seasoning sets in. But in the meantime, we're gonna get our pit ready. So I'm working with a Pit Boss Austin XL pellet grill, and what I'm gonna get it going this morning, we'd like to see, probably gonna want it to run about 275, 265, somewhere around in there. For the day, we'll kind of monitor that just to see how quick it's cooking. Usually I would let this run until the meat was done. I would check the temperature, but we have a time that this has to be turned in, so I'll be monitoring throughout the day the internal temperature of the meat so that it gets done when we need it to be done. So if it's cooking too fast, I'll slow it down. If it's cooking too slow, I'll turn the heat up and have it cook a little bit faster. So it is real early this morning. I didn't get this apple juice here because I was thirsty and needed it for breakfast. Actually, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna fill this pan here up with a little bit of apple juice. You know, about an inch or so in this pan, and we're gonna set this inside the cooking chamber because as it heats up in there, this will kind of steam and create a moisture inside the cooking chamber, and it'll keep that keep the moisture inside the piece of meat as it cooks. So everything we do is to keep that meat as moist as possible and add flavor at every opportunity. So as we can see, the seasoning's been sitting here for about 15 minutes, and the piece of meat, as that starts sweating out, it's pulled all that juice out of it, right, and started to adhere itself to the piece of meat. So there's no time better than to get her on the smoker right now, and then we'll start this cook. All right, we got her in the cooking chamber. This thing's gonna go for probably 10, 11 hours. We're gonna check on it every hour. We're gonna do a little spritzing to keep moisture in it. About halfway through the cook, we're gonna come back, wrap this thing up, and I'll talk to you about that stuff when we get there. See you in about an hour or so. So we've been cooking for about 2 hours, and we're gonna see what it looks like, and we're gonna start the spritzing process. Got my Pit Boss sprayer here. This is half apple juice, half apple cider vinegar. It'll do two things. It'll give it a little bit of a sweet coat on there, as well as the vinegar will start breaking down some of that fat and make it a little really tender. So we're going to do this about every hour, hour and a half throughout the cook. But let's see what we got so far. Oh yeah, it's starting to build a nice crust on the outside of it, that bark that you want whenever you whenever you're cooking like this. So what we're going to do is we're going to check our water pan, which it looks fine. And we're going to spritz it down and keep it good and moist. So. All right. We'll come back about an hour and a half, and do it again. All right. So we've been cooking for about 5 hours. So we're about halfway there. So now we're going to wrap this thing up. I got my cotton heat gloves. I'm going to cover those with a latex. I'm on. So let's open this up and see what it looks like. You can see the fat starting to break where I seared it, popping out. That's a good sign. We got a good crust on here. It's nice and black. So what we're going to do is we're just going to take this, set her in here. And then we're going to take a little bit of this. This is not what I needed. All right. Had the wrong stuff. So now we're going to take a little bit of this brown sugar. I'm just going to sprinkle that on top of it. Give it a little bit of sweetness. And then everybody's favorite part here. Good old stick of butter. Here with some more spray. That apple cider vinegar and apple juice. And then we're going to wrap this thing in aluminum foil. So this pan now will start catching all that rendered fat. So when we pull it, we're able to keep the juices in with the meat and make it real nice and moist. Let that good tight on there. Then we'll put that back on. Smoker. We'll let this thing cook for the next couple hours. We'll be back then. All right. We're getting closer to the end of the cook here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to probe the butt to see what temperature at. What we're looking for is a little over 200 degrees, about 202, 206, somewhere in there is a good temperature to have it. But mainly just how easy it is to probe. We don't want to see any resistance. That means that it's actually starting to get to where it's really tender. So let's see what we got here. Just like that, it just goes right in. And as it climbs, we'll check it here. So oh yeah, that's 200. No resistance whatsoever. 202. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to take this off and I'm going to put it in my cooler for it to sit and just kind of relax for a little bit. They call it just so whenever we sit it out and let it after the cook, it'll start absorbing all those juices and stuff that are in the bottom back into the meat, making it more moist. We're going to rest it. That's what they call it. They let it rest for a little while. It's 5 o'clock here. I got turn-ins at 5:30. So I'm going to put it in the cooler, and then we'll take it over to the church. So we had the time, so we decided we were just going to go ahead and pull this here at the house. We got my beautiful sous chef involved here. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to try to see how tender it is. And then we're going to pour off some of the rendered fat there in the bottom. It just had so much because it was such a big piece of meat that we didn't want to have that in the actual pulled pork. So we're going to take her over to the sink here and pour some of that out. So the first thing you're going to want to do is look for the bones here, and we're going to glove up because it is hot. So what we're looking for is the bones to come out real easy and not have a whole lot of meat attached to them. That's the first sign that this is done the way you need it to be before you pull it. If they tug and they're sticking, then you're going to need to cook it for a little while longer, which is perfectly okay. That happens. But as you'll see here, when we pull these bones out, they come out absolutely no problem because we got to the temperature we need to be. Like I said before, between 202 and 206, they pull out clean, and then you can start. Once you get all that out, you can start actually pulling the meat to make the pulled pork. We use these claws. We like to call them the Wolverine claws to break those up and make a nice pulled pork sandwich. This probably was about a 10-pound shoulder, so you're probably going to feed 30 to 40 people with that, depending on how big their sandwiches are. But after this, we took it over to the church and entered it into the contest. And now you know the steps I use to make our award-winning pulled pork. This year's results weren't what we intended. We came in third place in a real close battle. First place tied, and we were 0.2 points behind them. So it was a real close battle. But we enjoyed the process, and now we have another episode of Dine By Me.